Welcome everyone to Half History Will Travel. I am your host, the Wilder Historian, and since we are in September, and that's the anniversary for the Battle of Antietam, I wanted to read a conglomeration of recollections by different soldiers about their experience on the north end of the battlefield known as Miller's Cornfield. When I first read these accounts, I got goosebumps thinking about the horrendous suffering that took place in that relatively small area. We were astir at the first streaks of dawn. No reveille call this morning, too close to the enemy, nor was one needed to arouse us. A simple call of a sergeant or corporal and every man was instantly awake and alert. All realized that there was ugly business and plenty of it just ahead. Major Rufus Dawes, commander of the 6th Wisconsin, wrote that after marching a few yards, a shell burst over our heads, then another, then a percussion shell struck and exploded in the very center of the moving mass of men. It killed 2 men and wounded 11. Thus opened the first firings of the Great Battle of Antietam. Another soldier remembered that the artillery duel was like an active volcano belching forth flame and smoke. One soldier described how confusing the cornfield and the battle in general was. One who has participated in battles knows how much and how little can be seen. The smoke, the trees, the varying formations of the ground limit the vision. The deafening noise, making orders hard to be understood, the ghastly work of shot and shell, the shrieking of some of the wounded, all tend to limit the knowledge of battle outside of a few yards on either side. Next we'll hear from a gentleman from the 12th Massachusetts. Through the field to the heavy fence that bordered the memorable cornfield where later in the day the dead were literally piled up. Just then a shell struck the fence and exploded right in the midst of us. It seemed for a moment that all was chaos as dust, splinters, and smoke filled the air, but it staggered us for only an instant, and rubbing our eyes we saw that most of us were still in fighting trim, onward to the cornfield. Eugene Powell of the 12th Corps wrote, "The sight at the fence where the enemy was standing when we gave our first fire was awful beyond description. Dead men were literally piled upon and across each other." Major Rufus Dawes, elevated into the command of the 6th Wisconsin Infantry when his commander was wounded, described their advance into the cornfield. "We climbed the fence, moved across the open space, and pushed on into the cornfield. I halted the left wing and ordered them to lie down on the ground. The bullets began to clip through the corn and spin through the soft furrows, thick almost as hail. Shells burst around us, the fragments tearing up the ground, and canister whistled through the corn above us. At the front edge of the cornfield was a low Virginia rail fence. Before the corn were open fields, beyond which was a strip of woods surrounding a little church, the Dunkard Church. As we appeared at the edge of the corn, a long line of men in butternut and gray rose up from the ground. Simultaneously, the hostile battle lines opened a tremendous fire upon each other. Men I cannot say fell. They were knocked out of the ranks by the dozens." Corporal James Kent wrote how General Gibbon put in a double charge of grape and sighted the gun himself. When that charge went into the ranks of the rebels, it lifted a whole windrum of them 12 feet into the air. I saw the whole bodies, arms, legs, and all sorts of fragments above the corn for a moment, but they, the Rebs, stopped coming towards us about that time. That discharge carried whole rails from the fence clear into their ranks. The local newspaper reported that the country over which the great battle of Wednesday raged presents a melancholy picture of devastation. A number of houses and barns were destroyed, fences scattered as if a tornado had swept them away, hundreds of acres of corn trampled down and devoured, and wreck and ruin and desolation meet the eye at every turn. General Joseph Hooker wrote, "In the time I am writing, every stalk of corn in the northern and greater part of the field was cut as closely as could have been done with a knife, and the slain lay in rows precisely as they had stood in their ranks a few moments before. It was never my fortune to witness a more bloody, dismal battlefield." Here in the coming weeks, I'll be doing a final animated battle map for Antietam featuring Burnside Bridge. If you have not done so already, check out my battle maps for the Cornfield and Bloody Lane. Thank you all so much for watching and supporting the channel. Please consider joining the Patreon, purchasing a t-shirt from the Teespring store, and share the video to get the word out about the channel. Thank you all again and have a great day.
Historian, where do you roam? Historian, far, far from home. Have history will travel reads the card of a man. A professor with knowledge in the heartland. To educate the world is his mission. A professor of fortune is a man called historian. Historian.